I thought I told it to start. Apparently, I didn't. It wanted to confirm that I wanted to start, and I missed the confirmation. Okay. So, hello. How's it going? Okay, so I'm going to put this out into X, saying that I am actually starting. Okay, and I'm going to say, and I am now live reading in chapter 4. There we go. Get in here. There we go. Posting that. And I'll send it to a few places. Okay. And that should be good. Yep. Have a good night, Plob, and sleep well. And check the sleep check the stream out whenever you wake up. Because yeah, you're probably not gonna wake up in the morning since it's like 4 o'clock right now in the morning for you. So yeah. And I definitely will have fun reading. It's a really good book. See ya. Sleep well. Do do do. Okay. And I'm going to put just a little bit of music on in the background so that my headset doesn't decide to stop running after it thinks that I haven't been using it for some reason. It's there you go. I don't think it needs to be that loud. Just needs to be loud enough so that it believes that I'm playing something. Okay. So yeah, just vamping a little bit right now. Right before this stream, I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, which is pretty dang awesome. And once I'm done reading, I plan to be going back and playing it some more. So yeah, just waiting to see if we can get a few people here to listen. Because yeah, and the author is here, right here. The author has awakened. By the way, there's a good chance that Plob is going to be listening to all four of the books in the morning. And well, our morning, his afternoon. It's like 4 o'clock where he is right now. 4 o'clock in the morning, and and he sounded interested in the book, but he was struggling to stay awake during my Ghost of Tsushima stream. So I told him to go find my playlist on it and watch slash listen to it when he gets up. So yeah, and hopefully after that you'll have another fan. Yeah, he was talking about how he was closing his eyes in between the messages he was sending me. I was like, dang, dude. I really hope he does too. Uh, if he likes science fiction, I'm sure he will. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's just you and me here at the moment. But like I said before, it's not just about it's not just about the live. It's also about about people who watch it later. So, yeah, I think I am going to get started because yeah, exactly. I'm not I'm not all that worried about it either. So yeah. About the live views, how that was kind of funny. Look what just got pinned. Okay, so we are starting, and the last thing that we saw was up here. And by the way, this is part of why I really like having it in the PDF with all of them. I can actually see it, like if I stopped reading at the end of one chapter, like I did here, what the cliffhanger there was at the end of the chapter. So yeah, Tarek drew close to his partner, barely speaking above a whisper. Now you're going to tell me why you have a severed hand in your pouch. Because yeah, and I brought myself out of the full screen, and it's not wanting to bring me back into it. Dang it! Oops, that was definitely an oopsie. Ah, whatever. Okay, so chapter 4, unknown. Janice's eyes widened, and she did a quick scan of the room. It was not readily apparent that anyone had been listening to their conversation. How did you know? She asked in a hushed whisper. "Hmm, I don't know. Maybe it's the dark stain on your pouch or the strange stench coming from you. You didn't work up that much of a sweat. How did you manage to get that? Maybe we should talk somewhere else, preferably where we have some privacy." Nandale walked over, a muted smile on his face. "I'm grateful to both of you for bringing them back. Judging by the sounds out there, it's a good thing I didn't insist on going. Right. Genesis and I need to have a little chat about our next move. We'll be in the kitchen talking it over. Turok gingerly put his hand on her shoulder and escorted her through the crowd as swiftly as he could. As soon as they entered the kitchen, Turok closed the door and then turned to her. Okay, let's see it, he said, wagging his index finger. Genesis opened her side bag, nearly gagging from the acrid smell of necrotic flesh, and placed the severed hand on the metal counter. She briefly assessed the size of the palm and the shape of the fingers. Looks like the hand of a Kashara, he informed her, poking it, but its rate of decay is too fast. Whatever you plan to do with it, you'd better do it fast. The flesh started to bubble before it sizzled and withered. Right. Vita, run a biological diagnostic. Her Ocucom scanned the hand, a soft blue light enveloping the shriveling body part. A masculine, docile voice hummed in her ear. Running diagnostic. Please stand by. I wonder what we're about to find out, Genesis sighed, as if the situation wasn't tense enough. Uh, uh, Whatever we find out, we'll just have to deal with it. But what if it's something Vitacam cooked up in their lab? What if it can't be destroyed and it's infectious? Imagine what will happen when it gets off planet. There you go, spiraling. There's nothing in this galaxy that's indestructible. Except styrofoam. Turek had a confused look on his face. Styrofoam? It's a petroleum-based product humans use to package just about every product in a box. You could blow the roof off a house and the styrofoam inside would still look as good as new. The EPS finally outlawed its production and use in 2078. Interesting. So how did you dispose of it? The EPS jettisoned it into a black hole. What? How? Scan complete. Do you wish to continue? Her Akicom interrupted. Yes, please. Broadcast, Genesis commanded. A blue holographic face appeared from her transmitter. Species unknown. Genus unknown. Planetary origin unknown. She and Turok exchanged a wary look. Vita, specify. I have conducted an extensive search through the Galactic Species Index to identify the organism. There are no galactic records detailing the existence of a species with exact matching biological properties. The swift state of decay has made it difficult to provide an exact breakdown of its physiological composition. A larger sample is needed. Vita faded away, and they were left alone. So, we're right back to where we started, Turek scoffed. That hand is starting to look like green mush, and it smells like dead gigafish. Genesis stared down at the hand. We need to get Marjorus's body. What? Genesis, are you crazy? It's the only way we'll know anything about these things. And it'll certainly get us killed, he laughed. We can't do this. Then you can stay behind. I'll go get it. And how will you do that? They're probably just waiting for us to open that hangar door. I wasn't planning to use the hangar door. I'll use the maintenance shaft. I'll be in and out in 15 minutes tops. That's too big of a risk, Jen. Don't be dumb. It's a risk I'm willing to take. Not a single one of those Vitachem workers will tell us anything. We need to know what we're dealing with. They stared at one another until Turek broke his gaze. Listen, I'll go and you stay here. Your little human legs are clumsy sometimes. These little human legs won several first-place medals in track and field in school. Impressive by human standards, but you wouldn't stand a chance against Iberian athletes. If that's your way of saying you're welcome, you're awful at it. You shot a wolfish grin her way. You still love me. No, I only keep you around to do things like this. Better you than me, right? She replied with a smug grin. He rolled his eyes as he walked away. Try not to get into any trouble while I'm away, Jen. And with that, he was gone. Now alone, Genesis looked around the kitchen, examining the contents in the drawers. They primarily contained an assortment of silver cutleries, spatulas, mugs, whisks, napkins, and even tools like pliers and screwdrivers for minor repairs. Finally, she found a boning knife and grabbed it, going back into the hand that was now a grayish-green color. The skin was starting to shrivel and peel. Leaning down, she used the sharp end of the knife to poke at the skin. There was little resistance as it slipped under the dermis. The middle finger twitched, and she nearly jumped out of her shoes. Goodness, she sighed. Must have touched a nerve. Vita, is there anything you can tell me about the unidentified organism? Yes. The unidentified subject's rate of deterioration is unnatural. She furrowed her brow. Elaborate. All known species in the Milky Way have a general rate of decay, sometimes expedited by external conditions such as heat or detritivores. Upon close examination, the cells of the subject had delayed reaction to separation from the rest of the body. What does that mean? Without adequate oxygen supply to each individual cell, they would have immediately begun to die. The cells in this organism did not begin to break down until approximately 15 minutes ago and at an accelerated rate. Right around the time we came into the kitchen, she whispered to herself. Vita, when will this sample be completely unsalvageable? Based on my calculations, in exactly 5 hours, 45 minutes, and 17 seconds. Only 5 hours. Very interesting. Licking her lips, he continued removing the knife from the skin and focusing on the point of severance. She turned on the flashlight on her wrist transmitter. The skin was translucent under the light, revealing clusters of deep red blood vessels. Odd, she muttered. Carefully, she took the tip of the knife and slipped it in between the muscle fibers and the bone, or at least where it should have been. What in God's name? Genesis, that was a breeze. You actually could have. Tarek's voice trailed off. She whirled to face him, her eyes wide. He stood there, slack-jawed, with Marjoris's limp corpse slung over his shoulder. Well, this wasn't what I was expecting. You planning on cutting it up and serving it for lunch? Yes, but you caught me red-handed. I wanted to see what this thing is made of. Just couldn't resist, Jen. And he sighed carefully, placing the body on the metal table. He made a wet squelching sound. And what did you find out? There's no bones in the hand and forearm, at least. If I remember basic biology correctly, all bipedal organisms have a skeleton to keep their meat suit from hitting the floor. You are correct. So the question is, how does this thing move around and run as fast as it does without any bones? Genesis, we're about to sit down for... Nandiel's voice caused them both to jump. He stood in the doorway, confused at first at what he was seeing, and then his jaw dropped. The silence between them was as sharp as they stared one another down. Nandiel! He took a step back, and in just a few seconds, Turok had traversed the space between himself and the young Kashara and pinned him securely to the wall. Let me go! He exclaimed in before Turok placed his large hand over his mouth. If I let you go, I'd have to kill you. You've seen too much. Nandiel's eyes widened, and he looked at Genesis, his words muffled. Turok isn't going to kill you, she assured him, drawing closer. But he won't let you speak until you promise to keep your voice down. We can't help the rest of your friends if we're running around in the dark. His eyes had a glint of understanding, and he nodded. Good. You seem like the most sensible person here. You can let him go, Turok. Immediately, Turok removed his hand and backed away. Thank you. I panicked, and that's why I started yelling, Nandiel said. In a situation like this, the last thing we need is for anyone to panic. Let that be a lesson learned sooner rather than later. It could mean your life. The Vitachem worker focused his gaze on the cadaver. His muscles locked in place. Is that one of them? Is it still alive? Yes and no. It's not alive anymore. Genesis here wants to play mortician and open this thing up. But it's not just a thing. That's my coworker. His name is Marjoris. I can't let you abuse his body. I understand why you're feeling in the way you are at this moment, but that is not your coworker. Genesis explained slowly, pointing at the graying body. If what I saw in that hand is consistent with the rest of the infected, then you lost him long before we got here. You don't understand. The Kashar believed the purity of our souls was connected to the soundness of our bodies. Then what about autopsies, biopsies? Turek asked. Those serve medical purposes. We are in the kitchen of a biotech lab with a boning knife and no protective equipment. Would you feel better if I had Vita do a scan first? If he says it's a Kashara, then I won't cut him open. I promise. She could see the apprehension on his face ease a little, and he nodded. Vita, run a scan on the body. A green holographic orb appeared, and a beam of light slowly moved down from Marjor's head to his feet. Scan complete. Subject deceased. Species unknown, Vita informed them. Nondial didn't seem the least bit surprised. Genesis eyed him carefully before she approached the corpse, knife in hand. Jen, you may want to use a handkerchief or something to cover your mouth and nose. Some gloves, maybe? Last thing you want is for any weird liquids to get anywhere it shouldn't, like your eyes or in your mouth, her partner reminded her. Yeah, blood barrier. Right, she said. Looking around briefly, she noticed a neat stack of white linen and serviettes near the double sink. After grabbing one and folding it in half before tying it around her curls, she tossed one to both of them before putting on her gloves, just in case you decide you want to explore too. Knife in hand, she cut at his shirt down the middle and opened it wide, revealing the two black holes on his chest where the bullet had penetrated his skin. Red veins were woven closely together around the circumference of the wounds. Is that normal for Kashara physiology? She asked Nan. No, but as Yavita stated, this isn't a Kashara. It just looks like one. Well, no use waiting any longer, she huffed, drawing the knife close to the skin. Initiate autopsy with the Y cut. Vita, record the footage. Wait, you didn't say you were going to record. This may be a new species, and it's hostile. The Bureau should be informed so that the Galactic Species Codex can be updated, and any precautions necessary can be taken. Tarek chimed in. We're not interested in bringing to light whatever VitaChem is working on. Your company secrets are safe. The Kashara still looked apprehensive, yet nodded in agreement. What do you plan on doing with it? Nan asked. If you have a lab, putting this thing under a microscope may prove to be insightful. Jen, you better open up that body and see in what's inside before it's too late. Right. And she returned to the table and carefully peeled back the skin, revealing the inner workings of the unknown creature. Genesis audibly gagged. Turuk and Nan stood close by, watching intently. Well, this is unsettling. Vita, resume recording. Vita appeared again. Recording. She turned to the biotechnician. Would you like to describe what we're seeing? She asked. Sure. The unidentified organism has the external experience of a Kashara, but the subject lacks any familiar internal organs. There's a spherical dark green mass in place of the heart and has sustained failed trauma. What would be the intestines, stomachs, liver, and spleens are smaller in diameter, yet identical to a larger mass in the upper cavity. The subject also lacks an endoskeleton and nervous system, and the blood is a light green hue and possesses a distinct pungent odor. Rate of decay is accelerated despite relatively stable external conditions. The muscular structure is similar to that of Homo sapiens, but extraordinarily fibrous. Its external experience is Kashara, but a part of it resembles a human? Genesis asked. Yes, if it were Kashara, I would definitely know the difference. My name and my face won't be in that recording, will it? No, we'll make edits to it. And Truck can put a scrambler over your voice so that no one can identify you with recognition tech. The GAB is very careful with classified information, and I'd say this definitely qualifies. The Vitachem employee's shoulders seemed to relax. Thank you. Vitachem would probably kill me if they found out. We'll make sure that doesn't happen, she reassured him before looking over the body carefully. The hands ended in sharp, inch-long claws. The black veins that encircled Marjor's eyes and crawled up to his neck were now deep red. Wait, Taruk, weren't those veins black? Yes. They look like... The vines in the maintenance shaft? Life repeats itself in different ways, but it doesn't mean they're all connected. That was clearly a tree, and this is a sentient alien species. It was worth a try, she said quietly, staring at the lifeless black eyes. We're done here. We need to get access to the lab. Through the same maintenance shaft, yes? Correct. But you have to make a lift just past the ladder to the supply warehouse. There should be a map that tells you where you are. Here, he said, handing her a holocard with his photo on it. You'll need it to open the doors in the lab. I'll still provide what limited support I can through the comms. Thanks. Turok, are you ready? Ready, set, go. Shouldn't you, I don't know, close up that rotting husk, burn those gloves, and wash your hands before you leave? You can give the gloves to me to wash your hands. I'll sew them up and find somewhere to hide them. Ishar's bound to come in here eventually, and it's better if she finds me with Marjuris. Thanks, Genesis said, removing the gloves and handing them to Nandile before going to the sink and washing her hands. She removed the kerchief from her face. When you go back out there, try to be as casual and relaxed as possible. I will. Be careful. He turned his gaze to the body, and they headed for the maintenance shaft. The hatch was still open, and Genesis started to climb down first. Any ideas as to what we may run into this time? I guess we could expect more of these husks to be wandering around. Husks? That's what they are, aren't they? They don't have any real organs, and they're just made of fibrous tissue and green blood. Fair enough. But why on Duathar do they look like Kashara? Hopefully we can find that out in the lab. They reached the bottom and made their trek down the shaft and took a left as instructed. The lights above them flickered to life, revealing two ladders a great distance away. Tell me more about Vitacom, Turok. We have a few minutes to kill while we walk. Ah, well, let's see. The owner is a ridiculously rich Ikashard named Ron Verhol Jaris. He has a wife, Onafal. Oh, and their sons and daughters. Yeah, they have five children. And the next time you see a Viacom commercial, pay attention. One of their sons or daughters is bound to be in there, front and center. She pursed her lips. Must be nice. If there's any scandal or gossip surrounding the family, they're very careful not to let it show its ugly head in the tabloids. But the body language gives it away every single time. There's definitely been tension over the years. If there's ever blood in the water, the Tover sharks will come, which is the last thing they want. I can't imagine all that pressure of maintaining a certain image to keep your business afloat. She replied. The Jarvis family has a long history with science and technology. If I recall correctly, Ron's great great grandfather helped develop the modern warp core or drive most spacefaring vehicles are equipped with. Sounds like talent runs in the family. I knew a guy who ran security for them. Not all Kashara are brilliant and creative. Doesn't take a genius to see that. After the conversation dropped off, only the soft, consistent taps of their booted feet echoed through the air. Looking up, she noticed more of the scarlet-colored roots pushing through the crevices. I wonder if these roots all come from the same plant. They're everywhere. Well, these facilities are surrounded by trees. The roots are probably all over the maintenance shafts in every direction. I'd hate to be the one who has to remove the roots from the pipes. They reached the ladder, and the same map of the compound was on a metal display next to it. Once again, someone had deliberately scratched out a part of the diagram and an unidentifiable object situated behind the lab. Here we go again, she lamented. It it just can't be a coincidence that the map by the supply warehouse and this one have part of the compound scratched out. Something else is going on here, and I get the feeling that there's more to this than an angry coworker. They discovered a new species. Is Vitachem bit off more than they can chew, and rather than alarming the local authorities, it made more sense to have the Bureau and all its red tape on public reporting handle the situation. What people don't know can't hurt them, right? Genesis replied, rolling her eyes. All right, same method as the warehouse, back to back, head on a swivel, no noise, and guns at the ready. Taruk nodded once, and she started to climb the ladder. Once she reached the top with little force, the hatch opened silently. She assessed the room quietly and finished her climb. Taruk was right behind her. Rows upon rows of metal shelves were lined up against the far left wall with empty specimen jars of various sizes. Several rows of long white tables with microscopes and black stools underneath remained empty, and several tall white cabinets side by side sat near the door that led to the stairway. It was completely silent, save for the air conditioning unit keeping the room at a certain temperature. The air was sterile and stale. The lab was separated from another part of the floor by a wall of thick paned glass. From what she could see, it was some kind of containment chamber, and the cool mist was too thick to make out exactly what was inside. A decontamination hub prevented them from getting inside. Interesting. The shaft led right into the lab, but I guess that makes sense considering it is used for maintenance. And Genesis looked behind them. The main door and the windows were shut down tight. And for instances like this, makes it easier to contain the situation. Vitachem was smart for building this place about 100 miles from the next city. Well, let's see what this strange critter can tell us, Turek said, removing the petri dish from his pocket. They grabbed the closest microscope, and he retrieved a fresh slide before removing the lid of the dish and using the tweezers to pick up the thin strip of flesh. It looked like he had nothing between his tips. He adjusted the mechanical stage, then switched to another objective lens. Interesting. It looks like the skin is in fact a cluster of red worms with lots of little dark fuzzy tendrils. No eyes, nearly translucent. Looks like there are looks like there are distinguishable internal organs, even though they look like little knots. You want Via to run a scan? Yes. That's what we need to collect as much data as we can and send up the chain of command. The more information they have, the better they can handle any future incidents. I'm going to look around, see what else we can find out. Tarek nodded and continued to examine the tiny creature. She started with the cabinet closest to the front door, sliding open the drawers. It was replete with lab equipment such as petri dishes, disposable gloves, flimsy-looking goggles, scalpels, and small gauze squares. She moved into the cabinet underneath. Large bottles of alcohol, ethanol, disinfecting spray, and boxes of disposable masks were arranged in neat rows. The, this thing sounds more like a super parasite than anything. Nothing new to humans, though. A girl went to a foreign country, ate the local raw fish, and months later, she found out she was feeding a 10-foot long parasite in her intestines. Is there anything on Earth that isn't trying to kill you as a species? He asked. Our pets, maybe. But how loyal is a hungry dog? She replied, as she moved through the other cupboards. And Turek asked, Find anything? No, just lab equipment. Centrifuges, tube furnaces, lab coats, graduated cylinders, syringes. There aren't any terminals in this lab. Which means we'll have to keep exploring the other levels. Any idea what's in that cryogenic chamber? No idea. It looks like you need a higher level of security clearance than Nan has. Must be something very important. And in holophobes, usually more security means more lethal, and we already have a lot on our plate. A warning was in his tone. Relax, Truck. I wasn't going to try anything. You brought it up anyway. She opened one of the taller cabinets, and four cryosuits hung inside. Several small black tanks of liquid nitrogen with a bright red warning label were on the floor. I figured you could see something I can't. Vita is almost done scanning the sample. Turek got up from the stool and went over to the glass panels, squinting his eyes. Whatever is in there needs to be kept extremely cold. The thermometer says minus 42 degrees Celsius. Can anything survive in an environment like that? Not sure. I prefer to stay away from icy, barren wasteland planets, though I do hear Arsaturn is a lovely winter getaway, replete with cabins made entirely of ice, and apparently a solstice ball to raise money for the Variks. And Variks are? She asked, rifling through a stack of loose leaves of paper on a desk near the stairwell. Well, it consisted of a few lab result printouts and handwritten notes that didn't really stand out. But 50-foot marine creatures that live below the ice in Arsaturn? Just about every part of their body can be salvaged and sold as a refined good in luxury holonet markets. They're harmless for the most part, unless some poor soul gets swallowed alive by accident. We have creatures like that back on Earth. They're called whales. Whales? Vita made a chirpy noise and announced, "Scan complete. Would you like a full verbal report?" "Yes. Begin," Turek commanded, leaning against the counter closet closest to the pane glass. "Species unknown. Classification: helminths. Blood composition: carbon, oxygen, porphyrin. Status: alive, but vitals are failing rapidly. Biological composition: annuity and setae." "Helminths. So any one of us could have been in trouble," Genesis said. "Well, we can't stick around here much longer. We still have people to save, and likely more of those husks waiting for us on the upper levels." She tapped her Akicom twice. "Nan, are you there?" "Yes, Genesis. Were you able to get an analysis on the sample?" "We just finished the scan. It's invasive, but the species is unknown." Were you able to preserve it?" "It's intact, but it's dead." And Taruk had a quizzical look on his face, and she held up her pointing finger before tapping the transmitter on her wrist. "We figured it's not much use, but so we used a Bunsen burner to destroy it," she added. But Vitica would have loved to have the chance to examine the creature before he destroyed it. But I guess you can just transfer the data over once the situation has been handled. Nandial's voice was now being broadcast. "Of course. What can you tell me about the other floors?" The second floor is mainly our live specimens and some CCEs." "CCEs?" She echoed. "Cadavers for chemical experimentation. The subjects either volunteered their body for science prior to death, or Viacom purchased the bodies from a private company to further our research." Turuk's jaw clenched and he shook his head. The third floor has our vivarium, where we keep our newly discovered herbs and plants for reproduction before harvesting them and conducting clinical trials. The fourth floor is the infirmary, and where Daniel's wife is being held," Turek added. "Yes, there's a large concentration of CO2 in that area, so I'm assuming someone made it to her and the others that are being treated there before the infected could get inside. There's a small waiting room outside the medical suites." "Got it. Thanks, Nan. We're about to move to the next floor, so I'll be shutting this channel off." "Stay safe," he said, and then the line went silent. "Why did you tell him the sample was gone?" "He doesn't need to know everything. Besides, if Vitachem can be tight-lipped about everything they do, I can do the same for a few things." "No complaints from me. Shall we move on?" he asked, removing in his gun from its holster. "Yes, we shall. No noise in the stairwell. Hug the walls. And if you hesitate, it won't be a good time, Genesis." "Yeah, I know," she said, her voice soft and slightly unsure. Removing her gun and unlocking the safety, she walked over to the keycard panel and tapped the scanner. The doors to the stairway opened, and she stepped inside carefully. The landing led down on a few stairs with a few boxes, and the other half of the staircase spiraled up to the next floor. Genesis took each stair slowly, her boots hardly making a sound as she made her way up. Photos of Vitacom's history hung up on the walls, dated as far back as the 17th century. Once she reached the third set of stairs, the door to the second floor was visible. The air hung heavy in silence as she drew close to the small window, just above the doorknob. From what she could see, each of the four walls were all body boxes, and the live specimens were in glass tanks. They were species she couldn't recognize as being from Earth, judging by their odd physiology. She strained her ears, listening for any movement. There was nothing. Just as she removed the key card from her pocket, taking her eyes away from the room, Turek grabbed her hand, earning him a bewildered look. He pointed at the window, and she turned, immediately jumping back and colliding with her partner's chest. A dark green and withered husk stared right at them through the window. Its wide black eyes were still and cold, like dull marbles, and its yellow, mangled teeth gnashed at them. Where the noise should have been, there were only two small openings, and the dark strands of her hair looked wiry and thin. "What is that?" she asked quietly. "It looks different." His hands remained on her shoulders. I, I have no idea, Jen. It's not Kashara or any other species I've come into contact with. We shouldn't risk it getting loose. Definitely not, she said, her voice distant and hollow. She couldn't take her eyes off the creature until Truck gently tapped her shoulder, encouraging her to keep going. What if there was someone in there? I doubt they'd still be alive, he replied. Pressing forward in silence, they reached the third floor, and she looked through the window once again. Vita, do a scan of the room. A blue sphere emerged from a wrist transmitter. Initiating data analysis. It passed through the door quickly and disappeared on the other side. Potted plants were under cloches were lined up along the walls. Juvenile trees were situated neatly in rows, and bushes and shrubs had been planted directly into the dirt floor. Hanging vines that had begun to bloom on the tables were everywhere, and anti-frost netting covered what must have been the more sensitive flora. The greenery was so dense that the back wall wasn't the least bit visible, and a canopy of mist wafted just a few feet above the ground. I wonder what plant food they use to make these plants grow like this. I keep killing mine, she said in a low voice. Maybe you just have a black thumb. Genesis threw her deadpan stare at him in his way just before Vita returned. Detail analysis complete. 65% of the organic plant life is from the veiled oasis system, and the remaining 35% has unknown origins. Several of these plant species emit highly toxic microgametophytes. There are no registered GSC life forms present, but there are several mobile organisms present. I strongly recommend avoiding use of this room entirely. Vita quickly dissipated into the air. Turok and Genesis exchanged worried looks. Her Occupcom started to ring in her ear. It was Nandial. "What is it?" she asked. "I almost got to tell you. The only way to get to the fourth floor is using the Vivarium's elevator." And that is the end of chapter 4. I see that I see that Anjoy has decided to leave the free part of the book off on a cliffhanger. Not a bad plan, if I do say so myself. So yeah, they're just after they're told not to go through the chamber, they find out that they have to go through it. Yep, no more free chapters. I will say though, I've read the other chapters. And I haven't read them edited yet, but I am certain that the edits will only make it better. So I can state that the that all of the chapters are good chapters. So thank you to everybody who has listened, and I am going to go back over playing Ghost of Tsushima in just a few minutes. So thank you for being here. Okay, so have a good night. And if anyone who is up for watching someone play some more Ghosts of Tsushima, Just keep it on my channel for the next few minutes, and I'll be started up. Oh, good. The book is well on its way to being done editing. That's great. Okay, so I will see you guys later, and everyone should check out the playlist that has me reading all of these. And I think I'll actually before I end the stream, I'm going to put a link to the playlist in the description. Oh, definitely. Definitely hope everyone grabs a copy. It, like I said, it's a really good book. And there we go. It is now in the description. And with that, we are out.